to put it across to you, but it's not processed in the same way as the GW pharmaceutical Epidiolex would be processed. So you're getting a more wholesome product, and you're getting a more wholesome medication, and that is incredibly important because the children like my daughter are very, very vulnerable, and the treatment has to be extremely specific.
Right. Now, I just noticed...
So it is working very, very effectively.
I noticed the last line, which I hadn't quoted, but I will do so now. Minister Harris, in his statement, says he is establishing a clinical access scheme that is based on medical advice, not political advice. Now, surely he has to act on medical advice as opposed to, and he has to talk to the experts, no?
Well, I mean, maybe perhaps Simon should have contacted the medical advice that is here in Holland, where medical cannabis is legalised and prescribed safely and effectively.
But that's exactly what his experts are supposed to be doing.
But they haven't done it, because if they had done it correctly and properly, the legislation would be in a position to be moved forward, because that is what has happened in Holland, that is what has happened in Germany. You know, the Health Products Regulatory Authority made inquiries, but who did they make inquiries to? You know, who did they go to for the medical advice that they have found? Because if there is a flaw in the treatment of medical CBD and medical THC, it certainly isn't considered a flawed option in Holland or Germany,
yes,
where it is possible to go, like we are doing, to a pharmacy and be dispensed our medication under medical supervision.
And that's happening there in Holland, you're saying?
Absolutely, it's happening. It's happening. Because, you know, we have collected our prescription. We have been issued our medication, and we administer our medication under the guidance of our doctors. That is what is happening. So the HPRA clearly have you know, they have not sought out the correct information. Another point that I would like to make is that it is incredibly disappointing that when the Health Committee held their, came into session, that they refused to hear the evidence of Professor Michael Barnes from Newcastle University in England. Professor Barnes produced a magnificent report, over 160 pages of a report surrounding medical cannabis, and it's a very balanced and very true representation of medicinal cannabis in terms of its success with certain conditions and the varying degrees of success that it has with a lot of different
but I'm just wondering,
medical conditions.
If the minister is being told, I mean, and you clearly, based on your own personal direct experience with your daughter, who previously was having several seizures a day on occasions and now hasn't had one for 9 days, that's one side of it.
Ava was having up to 20 seizures a day, and we are down to 0. And
if he's hearing that, on the other hand, from the specialist neurologists who, apparently in significant numbers, are saying to him, tread very warily here, because you have to be, you have to have consistency of quality in what's supplied, and you can't, because if this thing is allowed and there aren't proper safeguards, presumably the taxpayer and the minister are open to being sued if things go wrong.
Well, I mean, there's licenses already being granted for the use of medical cannabis in this country. In Ireland, So, the thing is that those licenses would not have been granted unless there was sufficient clinical evidence to support those licenses being granted.
I'm wondering what your own plan now, Vera, is. You're there for the last, is it fortnight? Are you just going to stock up on the prescription and come home with Ava, or what is your plan?
But sure, how could we do that? Sure, you can't stock up on a medication and come back with a medication that is not accepted as a legal medication in your own country. You have to. We were forced out of this country. We were forced out of Ireland to come to Holland to get the necessary clinical evidence that the HSE and the neurologists demanded of us to produce a report to say that our daughter would show improvement on medical CBD and THC. if I, as you suggest, stocked up on medication and came back into Ireland, I would be breaking the law by returning into Ireland, in spite of the fact that it's being prescribed here under doctor supervision. You know, when I returned from Barcelona some time ago with a prescription, the customs officials seized that medication from me. In fact, I declared that medication at the airport because of that very reason, that we are not criminals, we are not doing anything wrong, we are doing what has been proven medically to work for children with Dravet syndrome and for many other conditions. So what I want to do is I want to come back to Ireland with a licence for the medication that Ava needs and to live my life freely and be happy at home. That's all I want, you know.
But I presume that you will be providing a report to the experts here from the experts there, saying, look, this is the experience, these are our findings, the treatment that we have provided and prescribed is working in Ava's case.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not expecting anybody to consider my word on this as what is necessary for my daughter to come home. I mean, what we have to do is we have to cooperate with the doctors over here and provide the clinical evidence that the neurologists in the CUH and the HSE combined asked us to provide.
And if you satisfy them, then what happens after that?
Well, I suppose effectively, once it has reached a stage that satisfies the HSE and the neurology team, we wish to return home. I mean, this is not where The Hague is a very lovely place and everything, you know, but The Hague is not where we want to live our lives. It's not where our work is. It's not where our family is. We would not choose to be here other than because the government would not give us the opportunity to allow the medication to be prescribed in Ireland. And the neurologist equally, you know, I mean, it's the responsibility of the neurologist as well for not considering it appropriate, although she she applied for a license for another patient in the country that she would not apply for the license here. So we've always been very reasonable. We've always wanted to do the very best that we can for Ava. So the most appropriate thing is to leave, to provide the clinical evidence to give Ava the chance to survive.
And it's not just yourself and Ava who are in The Hague, isn't that right?
Well, my children are very small. My daughter Ava is 7, my daughter Sophia is 6, Michael is 4, and Elvira May is 2, you know. So they're very small, and we came to the conclusion just before the end of Sophia's term in junior infants that we would bring our whole family over here with us because we did not want to disrupt their lives. You know, we wanted to disrupt their lives as little as possible, and our hope was that before September time, before school begins again in Ahabulloch, where we're from, that we might be able to return home to Ahabulloch. But when it comes to September time, my son Michael is starting junior infants in Ahabulloch. My daughter Sophia is going into senior infants. One of us, we haven't decided yet whether it's going to be my husband or myself, is going to come home with the 3 children. And at that stage, we will urgently need the clinical evidence that is being produced to be taken seriously, because at that stage our family is going to be separated. And I have the most terrible fear about how that's going to affect my daughter, because I have always felt that the progress that Ava has made has been significantly helped by the support that's around her and the love of her family. I mean, she's separated from my mother at the moment, who lives very near us at home, and that's heartbreaking for the children. And so we are absolutely going to be in that position unless the clinical evidence over the coming the rest of July and the rest of August is going to be deemed sufficient for us to be granted a license to return home.
And finally, I use the word betrayal in my opening line. Does that actually sum up how you feel about this, Bill?
Well, it absolutely does, because, I mean, it is a betrayal. It's a betrayal of Eva. I mean, I was saying to Paul before I came on to speak to you, I mean, what do you think is actually, what is more important than a little child like this? A little child that, you know, this medication has reduced her seizures down by, you know, over 90%. You know, I'd like an explanation from somebody as to what issue is more important than stopping the suffering of a little child like that, or what issue is more important than the people all around the country who are in chronic pain, who have tried all of the pharmaceutical medications to the nth degree, and that the pharmaceutical medications do not ease their pain. You know, what's more important than that? And, you know, like, the thing is, we're over here. We are in an incredibly difficult situation, but we are so fortunate that the ordinary people in this country can see that we are genuine and that they support us. Because we got no funding to come over here at all. The neurologist would not sign off on the treatment abroad scheme for us because she describes medicinal cannabis as an experimental treatment. So we are depending on the generosity of the people via the GoFundMe page that's been set up for Eva. And, you know, it's that generosity that is allowing us to help our daughter and for us to sustain ourselves over here. You know, like, it's so wrong. Vera. And I mean, like, it's a little girl, and I would just, you know, I'm just thinking of Miss O'Connell and Simon and the rest of them. I mean, they should really be hanging their heads in shame that they are not legislating for this bill, and that they are leaning back on the compassionate access program, supplying pharmaceutical medication with a CBD basis to supply an answer to the question as to why our daughter cannot get her medication.
Okay, Vera, no doubt this is a story to which we shall return, hopefully with Minister Harris in the not too distant future. We'll leave it there for now.
Give him my best regards.
I'm sure he knows he has those already. Vera, thank you indeed for joining us. That's Vera Twomey there on the line from The Hague, mother of Ava. Coming up, a 39-year-old